Perfect. Okay, nice.
Okay.
Give me a second. Okay, cool. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we are recording, and yeah, I will just give a little intro again. So I'm gonna interview Kamala. Kamala, you're here with me. And basically how this started is I remember the day where I held space for you, which was like, I don't know, half a year ago or something. And I've been like in and out of the PM spaces for some time, and especially always been a lot out of the PM spaces and then dribbled a little bit back in. So I just remember the day where I held your space. And I remember, I think it was even your first EHP in that, like in that context. And just also a lot from what you shared. So I heard that you like did some new age stuff, or like been in like the new age scene, or at least did like other kinds of healing modalities. So it really resonated with me, and um yeah, and just reminded me of myself. And then I've been out of the space again, and now I like been more present, or like try to like get back into the space. And I just perceived you as being super present and also knowing your way around. That was just my perception of, okay, like knowing the distinctions. And I don't know, I just, yeah, felt your presence. So I was like, wow, like I have this like, I have this comparison basically of from a few months ago. So I was just, and for me it's like this, okay, I want to do more of this work, or I want to be more present, but then somehow I also struggle where to start, or like how to adapt, or especially when it comes to feelings work. My experience now also is I have like this one topic and this big grief, and with this, from feeling wise, I'm able to connect very well, but then all the other feelings, it's super hard for me. So this is basically how it started. So I reached out to you and was just like, which is super PM unlike, but I was like, I want to know your story. I'm just super curious. And
Yes.
yeah, so you said let's talk about it.
Yes, yes. So thank you so much, and I just still nourished that you said this compliment to me, and so I hear you saying that you are now stepping into PM more and have these still feelings, like certain feelings are okay to work with, and certain are like still hard to work. But what I heard from you was also that um, a story a little bit, because now I see you more present in the group. I invited you to hard gym spontaneously. So I already think that this is the way, because that's how I think I started to grow about what the PM is. For me, PM was like, I don't know what it is. In the beginning, when I met you, I yeah only kind of resonated with, or thought, with what it relates to me. But yeah, and then now I see you being more present, and I think this is the way. You just jump into like a heart sharing space and you start opening up yourself. And because I didn't see you so much in there for a few months, maybe ask for EHP once, I don't know. And I'm not in an EHP collaborative. So just bit of background. I came to PM like in September because someone invited me, and I wanted to practice what I already know, what I'm so passionate about, which is inner child work by that time, because it really helped me with till Swan when I just had my deep dive and initiative. I had already kind of initiatory processes 6 years ago, which I like spent 5,000 euros for, and so much more money. But that left me so much open and vulnerable, and then I lost my path in a way. And then I had to reground myself. I kind of found till Swan. So this is my story, and it all became a bit of victimy toward the end. I nourished myself with this experience of workshops. And anyway, so I found till Swan and inner child work, and then I came here as a house sitter, and then I somehow bumped into PM, and by the time I was getting this gremlin energy about inner work, although I love it. So there were like contradictory energies within me, and that's where I asked you for holding space for the money issue, and it was really beautiful because yeah, this was also coming up, like this anger toward workshops, and I was feeling very sick. And I don't think we went very deep in EHP, like something to change, but I really remember that each step felt like very nourishing, to be held in a space where I just feel safe to let my heart speak. My body was having these processes. All of a sudden I started to feel sick about the money, and it was really healing. So I really enjoyed the session. That's what I remember. And I felt like, yeah, I like the work. And so since the time I studied, I went into it, and you knew that I'm so new to it, and I didn't do any training, so that's where I was. And so yeah, what I remember from the time, I actually was trying to dive deeper into what's going on in a group, very lively group. And then I felt like oh my god, this is like, I'm so scared because the group energy. And then I'm saying something, and I felt like a lot of waves were coming through me. So I let myself be held in a Till Swan energy, still in the what I learned from her. And I still could not give up to research what it is about. So it was like taking my time to research what the PM is about. And really there were like these steps where I remember, yeah, it was messy for me. It was very messy sometimes. Like at some point I realized I have issue with groups. It's so hard for me. It creates a lot of emotions and feelings. And it started to be already healing, because then I realized that when I was doing groups like 6 years ago, I already felt like love, passion toward being in the tribe, like expensive workshops, as I mentioned, but something was also like not working for me. And that was the my relationship with groups, that like my kind of emotions, like something that it needed EHP. So I just took these baby steps to, and then as I was taking these steps, everything started to be healing for me. Whatever PM group offered, even this being triggered, and using my own presence or tools, whatever I had. So it was a whole mixture of what I already knew. And so that I took the kind of next step. Everything was for me, what is the next step? What is the next step? And then somehow PM started to become part of my life, because then I was like, what the fuck? And I started to slowly, at some point, very, very slowly use these distinctions. I'm like, if I want to relate to these guys, they use fucking this distinction. I feel sad, and I'm passionate about them. Before actually I went to PM, I already was using something very similar.
Mm-hmm.
Feels fun. Also have 5 emotional, like there are 5 emotions as a basics to express.
So which is the
So I
fifth,
was yeah.
which one is the difference? Like which is the
Yeah,
fifth?
the difference is, and I actually was already very passionate about this process, and I was already practicing it on myself, and on others sometimes also, like really passionately. The distinction in her process is that she uses not joy, but she used 2 of them. The fourth is empathy and
Mm-hmm.
understanding. It's a vibrational mix of understanding and yeah, like I'm sorry. And the fifth one is forgive and love and hope. And so she uses this difference. And then I also used it for a really long time, since I was leaving the energy of the workshops. 4 years ago, I started to use them, really implementing them and even teaching them at some point. I gave one-on-one session to one of the friends, and yeah, I was already very I embodied them a lot, and I just didn't know how to kind of tell people like, it's so useful, why don't we use them? And I was already really super passionate about this. And then I noticed that the group uses something similar, so I was still intrigued. And then they're using fear, 333, and this, I was always so intrigued. And yeah,
How did you
So that
start?
was my journey.
Yeah,
Mhm.
how did you start your research? So you said, I think you said you studied a lot, so I don't, and you like researched. So was this like reading the blog posts or?
Yeah, that's a good question because actually I could not get PM sometimes. I was still a bit not judgmental but discerning, very discerning. Like when someone told me like okay, this is the distinction, and I was in a fear club and we both got triggered because, for example, she thought I'm using emotional release and she said no, we are recycling here, and I'm like okay, and I was like okay, I get your point, but it felt like okay, so I was researching and then checking with myself if I was really releasing, and so that was
So
like one of the
this was with,
distinctions which I studied.
yeah, this was within an EHP.
No, because I was actually just jumping into like anger or something. I was like, no,
Ah,
I have experience with that. And I was like jumping into fear, like practice. And I already have experience with practicing anger, but it was so different, this fear and everything. So that hit me, this distinction which was like hitting me. Like a couple of times, some people's distinction hit me, and I'm like, I already know this distinction, or I don't know. So I was curious
mm,
because it was like, where is this coming from? So like this emotional release distinction really hit me
mm,
because I was actually on the same path of trying to be very, very conscious since workshops. Like when I'm doing anger, I did release in past. And so to be conscious about it. So I was like curious. But there was one thing I wanted to also say. So these were hitting me there. I want to also mention there were few distinctions that really hit me because I already worked on it. So I did the comparison research and a lot of like kind of even EHP comparing with what I was already doing. And then at some point I wanted to say that what was really important for me was to find work of Clinton. I didn't know
mm.
who he is, and somehow I googled the 333 workshop. I googled it and I'm like, and then the Clinton video was there on the website. I somehow found it like, I like this guy. I was like, okay. And I sent it to my ex-partner because we were befriending for a few months. Like we are friends now. And because I have this pattern with my ex-partners, I'm therapying them. So, and I sent him this video. Of course, he gets triggered, but he's like looking at it and all this. And okay, so that was one of the steps. And there was another point where I also found a video of Clinton. I think it was, that was another breakthrough when I just was like, I just cannot handle these guys. Some guys, when I said they give me distinctions, some people, I just could not feel like it not just resonates with me, but where are you getting it from? I was like getting this angry. Where are you getting this from? Where is it from? What is the source? So I was like, there is no clear source where it's because I didn't have a training. So it felt to me that I'm not fully aligned with their energy, like they're telling me, like when when the guru tells you something, and I'm like, but I don't somehow trust you, or I don't know, like So there must be a source where you're getting this information from, and the websites were not satisfying for me because it's just a website. It's a bunch of a lot of things. So, and the breakthrough was also for me to find, okay, as I kept researching and not to give up. So I actually found the TV, the possibility management TV. And that was really, really nice because also I saw that, okay, they have 3,000 followers or 30,000. So it felt more like a real. So I was like, okay, this is real. And then I saw the real work, like how they do EHPs. That was the time I was researching what is the difference, how they really do these EHPs. And all of the sudden there are all these therapy sessions. And I'm like, finally I found something. So I'm looking at them. And actually that really helped me because I saw Clinton working and I'm like thinking, yeah, maybe he's a founder or something, but it felt like that was like slowly coming to me. And then I really liked the way he was holding the space. That was very aligned with me. There was no like no for me because that felt like nourishing. Like my distinction I used before PM was validation. in TILS. And then, although in PM no one uses the word validation, I still felt like people in this, yeah, there was, for me energetically, there was still validation in some way.
How do you mean? What do you mean exactly by
Yeah,
validation?
like in it, what I came to study therapy work with Teal, there are two main distinctions in her work. It's empathy and validation. It's like a two pillars of her work. That's how I like so. And then basically I still saw it in energetically in this video somehow. So
Mhm.
because I try to, for me, I'm trying to find what really works. And for me, I realized therapy works when there is these pillars. And then I'm seeing that they don't make these distinctions. So how it's possible that it works? So I kept researching, and I saw the video. It was a really good work, and all the distinctions are in the videos basically. So when you see Clinton working or Anna Chloe, I loved it. I really watched it, and yeah, and then also the changes happen in
So when I
possibility.
so when I understand you correctly, your work before, or like the understanding of like therapy work, was very much based on Teal Swan, which had like those different pillars, and you really like um and that's basically also how you build up your like idea of healing. And when you just had the processes within PM, you didn't see the connections, or you didn't see like how the pillars were satisfied. And this is where like your questions came up, or where like, okay, like
Yeah.
how does this work, and does this make sense basically?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then you saw more of the like work in the videos, and then it actually matched with the knowledge you had, like you already
Mm-hmm.
gained, or like it was both, you saw that it both stands on the same pillars, or that, yeah, that the work also stands on the pillars you learned already.
Yeah, somehow that. And I just want to add to it that also I felt like what was driving me to research and like now I don't mean I achieved anything. I'm just like, I think hard gym really helps to feel like a little bit more embodied with the distinctions, that they really have some purpose, they really have quality in it, and they could be used. And that's my next step also, to keep implementing them. But the healthy anger, I don't still call it an anger as a feeling. I still call it healthy anger. I created my own distinction, but I felt like that's what was driving me, because I was a little bit mad in a good way, that what is the truth? Because yeah, as you said, that yeah, I try to find out the truth, because I was so driven by this understanding that what therapy sits on, quality therapy work. And so I watched the videos, and I felt like what I really realized, that there is the resonance of these pillars. That's what I still have in my heart, and like my own distinction and understanding. But I'm also now adding other distinctions to it, like for for session to work, like of course not to be in a victim and space holding. There are so many other distinctions you could embody. And like inner child work for me, to come from inner child work, I started to create this understanding that also when for example we dive into really old emotion like EHP, it's still in a way inner child work for me, because we are not um, doing certain like other processes like you call it in other game worlds, but there is also this objective talking to this inner child brain, because from the psychologist's perspective it's still underdeveloped, it's the developmental trauma and blah blah blah, so but I now get more the distinctions as I'm studying it, and I listen to some work talks, so I'm slowly kind of building this matrix and understanding that distinctions are there, so they are close to reality, like when you implement them. So I'm experimenting with this now also myself, from what I heard, and also slowly using them practically. Like in the meantime, I meet someone and friends, and as I was building somehow my matrix, like, so I say I feel afraid, and I realize it creates a gate in relating. So I'm not scared of expressing my fear, so I can go to the point. Like before, I could not really say what I feel because I was scared to express my fear in relating, for example. And now in any relating, I'm not afraid to express my fear, and hence I think I can talk about what bothers me, and doesn't mean that I don't have solutions also at the same time, but it just feels like I can fully express myself in a moment. So I really started to see the difference in the real life, that I'm using them and it's okay.
And when you say that it creates a gate, do you mean it creates a doorway with the person in relating, or?
Yeah, for me, yes, because I realized that I was not fully authentic within my expression before implementing this. I feel afraid, for example, the fear, not just verbally. Of course, it takes time to feel it and not to just verbalize it. But yeah, it really helped me to feel like free, like, okay, I'm expressing what really is going on in me. So I think I had issue with fear before, to express my fear before PM. So that really shifted for me also
You
in
also,
relating.
yeah, you also mentioned the fear before and also the healthy anger. So as I understood you, when you started the 333 practice, you had this conception of already being in relating with your anger and as well as your fear. So
Yes.
what did shift there? So like what was your perception of feeling anger or be in connection with your anger and your fear, and yeah, and how you perceive it now?
Yes, it's actually true, because as I said, like in this like initiatory sacred sexuality processes, we did a lot of healthy anger, like not healthy anger release, of course. And I had many breakthroughs because I went to live in a Osho community and stuff. So I know what it is to walk through some kind of transformational stuff. Yet I didn't have tribe, and so on and so on. So things started to vanish. Tribe didn't stay with me, and then I found the Teal, and she became the solid point of my life because she's there forever. She has energy that she will hold you no matter what. She's so committed, and until her rest of her life, she will produce stuff for free. And so I felt held, and it felt practical for me. And so I used more consciousness in my anger, like why I feel angry. So I already used it. I would write it down, and also use the hate, because now we use hated practice. I already had distinction that anger, the first stage of anger expression, there are like stages. I would use also hate, but it already worked amazing for me. I practiced it in relationships, like when I had like a breakup, and I was still angry, so I would even write I hate your face or whatever, like when I had these waves of like hating something between us, I would still write it down. It was amazing. I just came to him as a friend again. We stayed friend until now with this ex-partner, for example, but I just would write when I just get triggered about something. And it made me also to zoom out of the space of relating, that I just express what I hate because it fucking triggered me, and it might be something about me. I don't know. I'm just gonna put it on the paper, scream it out, or whatever it needs, And I just came and said, I'm sad that I don't like how you, or something about this trigger sentence for me when he speaks, and he might never grow out of it, but I just said it's still painful. I said it's painful. I left it there, and he saw that it creates pain in me when he talks like this or whatever. So that was my like experience, that it was practically working for me, and there was still fear of anger. I still had a lot of these things because I was having gremlin energy about like, what the fuck, I spent 15,000 euro, where I am. I'm still having like such a financial issues. And at some point, I remember I still I was beginning PM, so in the beginning of PM, so I still used the work mixed with emotional release, taking a stick or something and because I was angry, for example, at the cat. So that was where I was, and being more conscious. And
Mm.
then I was practicing PM, and the difference became mainly in a fear, I would say, because people are so, we are so allowed to feel like the feeling of the fear. And I didn't see that in Teal's group, for example. She would talk about it a lot or sometimes. So I appreciate this, for example, that you could allow your body to shiver naturally, or like have this scream. I saw Clinton working with clients and it was so amazing. Like fear scream. I never seen it before. So I felt like this is also my experimentation now. Like I'm not saying that I'm not gonna be, again, I don't fall into fear of fear. I think sometimes it's like a layers. Like
Yeah.
I notice it in other peers and experimenters like you, that we still have these layers. We go through a long journey, and then we still come across fear of anger and fear of fear, you know. So I get it that there are these layers still. But the relationship with fear is really encouraged in the tribe. And that's, I think, where I was stuck with the completion process and everything. Because yeah, I was like, when you connect to fear, all of a sudden I thought I was holding space for someone a year ago or so. And whenever I did these layers with her, when I went to fear, she went into huge process. And I was like, she went into inner child kind of thing, and I started to hold space for her. And so I felt like it's messy, because I'm not courageous to just hold space for the fear. I just feel like I need to start holding space for all the wounding.
Mm.
So I felt like, yeah, I don't know. It's because you in PM, like I say, you guys, it's this gym all the time, like practicing 3 minutes fear, 3 minutes anger. And I still kind of sometimes judge it, because I felt like you are so in and out that maybe something bigger is triggered, what to do with that.
Mm.
So in the normal context, it's still a research little bit for me, because yeah, here I think there is a lot of responsibility. You take this to EHP, or you take it responsibly with you. But if it's a normal context without possibility management, you might get triggered, someone holds space for you, and then what to do with this? Like you have this piece of being triggered within a session, but what to do with this piece? You don't you don't know. You can blame the person because they cannot help you anymore, or they busy. So that was really messy part of this work, and it's still a little bit messy for me. So in this sense, I noticed that possibility management can support you in that, or like Teal Swan group also supports you. So, but there is also at some point it's tricky, because there are a lot of paid therapists, the practitioners, and it's not enough for me also anymore. It's also a mess in some way.
How do
And
you mean that?
yeah, it's like, yeah, there is no discontinuous support. There is and there is not, because if I go to a community, uh, conscious community on Facebook, completion process, a lot of energetics, the energy of people, it's victim, I think, what I feel. And I don't like that anymore. And
And what kind of Facebook group is this? Is this PM
uh
text or this?
yeah, it's for Teal, you know, she has her
Oh,
groups, but
okay.
there is one main one, maybe, kind of.
So she also
And
works with those concept of completion loops.
yeah, no, she doesn't work with a lot of these things. No, and that was actually a nice research also, these completion loops. I didn't know what it is, and now I use them more. So yeah. So I don't know where I'm now. I'm
What
getting a bit
I
tired.
Yeah, what I heard you saying before, or like this, like where you said, okay, this is like still messy for you, this concept of having your health, like your space held, and also in the PM context. But what is if this like trigger or like whatever is being a part, like it happens out of this PM space. So I think there's like and I'm just curious how you see it. So the distinction I see in this like whole healing modality world is between releasing and building up capacity. So I think those are like the big two differences. And I think it's very often just about releasing. And then with this, maybe also being very dependent on like a concept or a space holder in the long time, in the long run. And then there's also the idea of building up capacity. And I myself would, for example, see the 333 work as building up capacity.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm just wondering how you see that, or how you think how much does PM support the idea of building up capacity instead of releasing, or maybe you think it's the other way around.
Yes. Yeah, I think this is the good what I appreciate about PM now more, it's this building up capacity. Yes. And taking more responsibility for yourself. And even this expression, I feel scared, or how do you relate with finding a space holder? So you have a context of teams, you have context of, yeah, and yeah, it's very nourishing. I think I'm getting into it now, understanding. And of course I have fears of asking for space holders sometimes, but I feel more encouraged to use this distinction and, yeah, ask for maybe space holder when it's needed. And yeah, the mess in the other world is that it's still not satisfying, because the context is, yeah, it's like you need to, like, I know someone who spent 3,000 euro on therapy work, like one-on-one, for example. Recently I've been actually messaging her because I try to also integrate back to the completion process community, and it's not fully working. I find amazing people, but for example, now she is in a mess, in a depression, this woman, and she already spent 3,000 euro on having therapist. And I'm trying to get her into heart sharing somehow, but I think she's so scared of groups right now, and she wants to deal with it herself and blah blah blah. But yeah, I'm like encouraging her that I can hold space for her for listening. So I think I can see now that I'm building my matrix. So now I simply can hold space for someone just to listen. I don't have to say I do any therapy work. And this is, I think, amazing, because when you are like outside of possibility management, I mean, I'm sure there are also a lot of other nice tribes or some other cultures or whatever. Like, even for example, Teal's tribe, I still appreciate her. This woman is amazing, you know. But yeah, it costs money sometimes, and or you can start exchanging, and or you become lone wolf, and yeah, something is still missing, you know. And yeah, I think maybe I touched on what you said. Here it's more like also self-responsibility. And yeah, of course you can fall into this victimy whatever, but there are also other possibilities. You can start, you know, using the distinctions, and somehow, yeah, there is, yeah, different levels apart. And I think it's very nourishing that.
How do you reflect now, being like, since you are in the PM space, or now that you have been in the PM space, on your relationship with being a victim or seeing yourself as a victim?
It's a really interesting topic, because I've been working on it very intimately. And yeah, so that's been a big topic. And it's been a blind spot, because I thought I'm not victim, but I am, and playing blah blah. But yeah, I think it's yeah, I'm glad, because there is a lot of support. And yeah, and now I am actually testing some of the possibilities, like there been group on identity shift, for example. And the websites are amazing now. I sometimes, when I get to read some of the websites
Mm.
now, knowing more PM, they are more interesting, and there are guidelines. Like, for example, I've been writing my victim stories, so this has been amazing. Like, it was the validation, it validated my inner victim. Third time I wrote my victim story, and yeah, I actually posted in the CP group completion process that
Mhm.
yeah, I wrote my victim story. It's such a validation because they like the word validation anyway. And
Yeah.
now I can feel it how I'm validated. My victim is so happy. Oh wow, such a victim story.
Cool. And
And
with the websites, you mean the my stringly.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, there are also like, especially now with money, I try to, yeah, so I think there is a lot of support, and I don't feel there is a lot of victim energy, you know.
Yeah.
I think every group has their shadows and like these bright principles, and I don't think there is a victim energy at all in the PM world, and I like that. I love that. It's amazing because it it encourages me to see what else is possible. As yeah, there is this, yeah.
So you said it was your blind spot. You thought that you are not a victim, but then you realized that you are sometimes a victim.
Yeah, it's a blind spot because your like knowledge takes over, and you know this distinction about victim for many years. I know, but then your knowledge becomes your, like, you know, you just like yeah, I know this, so I'm aware of that, so it must not be so true anymore because I'm working with it. So this kind of ego state of
Hmm.
um, of already knowing, but it still sneaks in for me, or yeah, until now still. So
Well,
so I'm exploring what else, like more embodying how it is to be in different identity, and it's the step I need to take now. Yeah.
very inspiring. So, and now, like, I know you asked me about ETB. I think it's already decided. So, just about like your next steps. So, you were thinking about the ETB, or what's your like, what's.
Yeah, I want to. I actually, that was also a beautiful healing process for me in itself, to explore possibility management, because I started to have a bad relationship with this relationship with workshops, like angry gremlin.
Mm,
Um, Although I really integrated as much as I could and loved the waves after, you know, these processes, but now because the tribe is here again, and there I'm again regaining the fruits of the work I used to do, or releasing what I don't want anymore. So I realized, okay, I'm ready for the fresh start now. But I you know, especially Harjin is so nourishing, and you keep going and you keep seeing that the work is actually is nourishing your body being. And then I think, yeah, that makes me realize that, yeah, I want to, it's just readiness right now. So, and the money is another story, of course, but I think I'm just nourishing the readiness, and that's okay for me, the wantingness.
how did you find, like, you said somebody like recommended it to you? Like, is this person actively in the
Yes,
end space, or
yes,
how is
yes.
this?
It was actually the coincidence. I know a friend who I used to babysit her children a little bit, and we are related in the spiritual world. She does rape ceremonies and ayahuasca, and somehow she has this Scorpio energy. Like, if you are in astrology, she has this shadowy energy, and she has a really shadow sun, but we somehow still relate no matter what, although we are not compatible sometimes, but we still relate as friends. and and then at some point, I don't know if I messaged her about something, she asked me if I want to house sit and like be with children. And then I don't know how I got to talk. She said that her friend of her could do with my work or something, because she know, once I really validated her anger. There was like when I was there a year ago, and she felt so touched. She was so touched that I'm not this classical spiritual person who says, "Oh yeah," and I said I really
That's nice.
validated her anger. She felt so touched. I think she really sees some fruits of my work, and with her actually, I did this anger work. I did like a relationship coaching with her once. She paid me. She was like really enthusiastic to explore what I have to offer, and there was similar work with sadness, with fear, and so she knows that I'm just passionate about it. It's not flying anywhere like business, but it's just what I am passionate about naturally as a being. So she recommended me this guy something, and I said, yeah, I would like to actually practice this inner child work. And I messaged him, and he started to test me, and he was in the PM like, okay, I'll add you, I'll test you. And yeah.
And then you were in the collaboration, EHP collaboration group, I guess. And now you
Yes,
said you're actually not in there, or you're not making, yeah, I don't know.
no, it's just the apprentice, yes. But I'm glad because I'm just keep going through the basic. I actually, it's healing for me because since I'm like maybe 12-year-old or so, I created this box that I always need to try to be better, better, go, go. And I think something was always, the foundation was always missing in my life somehow, even when I went for a ski trip as a 12-year-old. I already said, no, I can't do, I felt really scared to own that I'm not a skier. So I made up a story that I already know how to ski, but I didn't.
Hmm.
Just because I was able to stand on the skis. So actually I didn't go to the foundational group. I went to the up level group and I didn't learn how to ski.
I
So
resonate. Yeah, I resonate a lot with that. I definitely know the pattern for myself, and it can be a vicious circle to like, yeah, yeah, interesting.
so I'm not even trying anymore to make it to EHP group. I mean, I think I'm nourishing myself just to keep learning the basics, go to hard gym. And I sometimes notice that sometimes I have such a strong foundation that I could easily, like occasionally I could do EHP with that, but I'm not rushing it. And it just feels like this is just so nourishing just to go over the foundation.
So good. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Mm.
Yeah, thank you. It was really, I don't know, it just was really good to hear your story. And also, I don't know, I think it's super useful, or I find it inspiring to just like hear this. I mean, it's like the common saying, but this like it can be messy, and to just use the resources and really be in this like study mode of like, okay, it's like a whole new world. What can you show to me? Like, what is this game world? And really make use of the resources,
Yes.
and
Yes.
yeah, and with the building up foundation, I like this.
Yes. I just want to add to it, as you say, like I think this is maybe a blind spot, maybe known thing in PM that when you enter it as someone like me who doesn't know, it might seem confusing. Now it's much more organized with the apprentice group and everything, but even the websites and everything, sometimes you can feel a little bit like the distinction. So yeah, so now I'm glad the hard gym is a good point to start, or like it's much clearer. So I'm glad for it, and yeah, it was something I also wanted to add. But yes, this is like from the point when you just enter without ETB, and it can be a little bit, but once you do hard gym or something, you start feeling the distinctions in your being, and you can put them in the real world, like in the practice. And yes,
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
thank you so much. So cool.
Yeah,
I'm glad that we made
yeah,
it.
I'm glad.
Yeah. And
I
I also want to give you compliment. I noticed that your being is much, your non-material value is much stronger in space. I already remember you holding space for me, but your being is much more like, yeah, like a beingness, like when we're in this beingness mood.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad that we just, yeah, that this somehow like came up from the impulse of like texting you, and we just went
Mhm.
in this whole, yeah,
Yes.
very
Oh,
non-PM story style.
yes. And there is one thing I want to add, just
Yeah.
one last thing. And that's something that really holds me. I think it's coming from the Teal tribe. And I heard also actually in PMI once mentioned it. I have a self-love tool that it's also, I noticed when I say it like that, it's instantly judged that I'm coming from the new age spirituality using some self-love tools, and it creates associations and all sorts memes, they call it, you know. I'm still, but actually I'm using a question like, what would someone who loves themselves do? What is the next step? So I think this really holds me because I'm using the question, I'm working with like my mental body in that sense, and that's why I can't drop things that are not working for me anymore. So I know that I need to create much more structure in my life, discipline with nature and a lot of things, but somehow it also guides me for like having these impulses. Like I could create a self-loving impulse like for next steps, which is related to how to study, how to go further, and how not to overstudy, how not to, you know, I just in my, you know, does it feel empowering? Like you start
Yeah.
making choices. Do you want to enter this group? Do you want to explore this? And there are so many offers. Yeah.
I like that. My entry point was also teal. I guess I never studied it in that depth, but I also remember this question from her book. So it's
Yes.
a nice,
Yeah,
very
it's
nice
really,
reminder.
yeah. And a lot of things are similar because for her self-love means to embrace actually the fear, the anger. And she wrote it in her book actually. And
Yeah.
it's truth. And that's what we are doing here. More we are in touch with our parts, shadows, we are actually more self-loving and feeling more joy.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely. Well, I think I would stop the recording for now and then maybe start a new one if we feel like it.
I don't know how long we went for. Wow, almost an hour.
Yeah, that's why.